When did my roommate become more than just a friend who paid rent? My mother called on a Friday afternoon while I was reviewing quarterly reports, her voice dripping with that particular brand of concern that meant she'd already made decisions about my life without consulting me. Elliot, we're having Thanksgiving dinner at the house this year, and Aunt Beverly is bringing her daughter Stephanie. You remember Stephanie, don't you? She just finished her residency, and she's absolutely lovely. I closed my laptop harder than necessary, the sound echoing through my home office. This was the fourth setup attempt in 2 months, each one more transparent than the last. My family had decided that at 29, I was dangerously close to permanent bachelorhood, and they needed to intervene before I became the cautionary tale at family gatherings. Jordan appeared in my doorway holding 2 mugs of coffee, her dark hair pulled into a messy bun that somehow looked intentional. She'd been my roommate for 18 months, splitting rent on this overpriced downtown apartment that neither of us could afford alone. She mouthed, "Your mom?" And I nodded miserably, while my mother continued describing Stephanie's accomplishments in excruciating detail. Jordan set my coffee down and started to leave, but I grabbed her wrist without thinking, a desperate idea for me. She raised her eyebrows questioningly, and I made an exaggerated, pleading face that made her bite back a laugh. My mother was still talking about Stephanie's volunteer work in Guatemala when I interrupted. "Actually, Mom, I'm bringing someone to Thanksgiving. My girlfriend Jordan." The silence on the other end was deafening. Then my mother's voice came back, higher and sharper. "Girlfriend? Since when do you have a girlfriend? Why haven't you mentioned her before?" Jordan's eyes went wide, and she started shaking her head frantically, mouthing, "What are you doing?" But I was committed now. We've been keeping it quiet. Didn't want to make a big deal until we were sure it was serious. But it's serious now, so I wanted you to meet her. My mother's tone shifted immediately from suspicious to delighted. "Oh, Elliot, it's wonderful. I can't wait to meet her. Does she have any dietary restrictions? What does she do for work?" I looked at Jordan, who had her face buried in her hands, shoulders shaking with either laughter or horror, possibly both. After I hung up, Jordan lowered her hands and stared at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. "Did you just tell your mother I'm your girlfriend?" Her voice was carefully neutral, the same tone she used when our upstairs neighbor played drums at 3 in the morning. I panicked. She's been setting me up with random women for months, and I couldn't take another dinner pretending to be interested in someone's niece who collects decorative spoons or whatever. Jordan walked over to the window, looking down at the street below. "So, your solution was to drag me into your family drama?" There was an edge to her voice that made me realize I'd crossed a line without asking permission. "I'm sorry. That was completely out of line. I shouldn't have volunteered you without asking first. I'll call her back and tell her we broke up." Jordan turned around, leaning against the windowsill. "How bad are these setup attempts?" I groaned and pulled up my phone, showing her the last text from my aunt with a photo of her dental hygienist attached. "This is Carolyn. She loves hiking and has her own condo." Jordan snorted, scrolling through more messages. "Your family is relentless." She handed my phone back and crossed her arms, thinking, "Okay, here's the deal. I'll do it. But you owe me. Big time." Relief flooded through me so fast I felt dizzy. "Anything. I'll take your trash duty for 6 months. I'll finally fix that leaky faucet in your bathroom. I'll alphabetize your ridiculous spice collection." She held up a hand to stop me. "We'll figure out payment later. Right now, we need to get our story straight because your family is going to have questions." We spent that evening sitting on the living room floor with Chinese takeout containers spread between us, constructing our fake relationship history. Jordan had her laptop open, typing notes like she was preparing for a trial. "Okay, how did we meet? And don't say we're roommates who decided to date, that's weird." I thought about it, remembering the actual day we'd met 18 months ago. We could say we met at that coffee shop on 5th, the one with the terrible art on the walls. That's true, technically. You were interviewing for the room, and we got coffee first. Jordan nodded, typing. "Good. Specificity is important. What date?" I pulled up my calendar, scrolling back. "September 14th, 2 years ago. You were wearing a green jacket and you ordered a cappuccino with extra foam." Jordan looked up from her laptop. "You remember what I was wearing?" The question hung in the air strangely. I did remember the picture that whole afternoon with perfect clarity. How she'd laughed at my joke about the painting of dogs playing poker. How she'd noticed the book I was reading and mentioned she'd loved that author. How I'd immediately hoped she'd take the room because she seemed like someone I'd actually want to live with. "You made an impression," I said finally. "The last person who looked at the room wanted to know if they could keep reptiles. Plural." Jordan smiled at that. "So, September 14th, coffee shop, green jacket. When did we start dating?" "We decided on 3 months ago, which gave us enough history to seem legitimate, but not so much that my family would be hurt I'd hidden it longer." "First kiss?" Jordan asked, and I felt my face get hot for reasons I couldn't explain. "We could say it happened after that Thai place opened down the street, the one we went to opening night." Jordan was quiet for a moment. "That was a good night. It had been a good night. We'd waited an hour for a table, ended up at the bar drinking overpriced cocktails and laughing about our respective terrible days at work. Jordan had lost a major client, and I'd accidentally sent an email meant for my friend to my entire department. By the end of the night, my face had hurt from smiling, and I'd forgotten why I'd been stressed in the first place. "So we're saying the fake first kiss happened then?" Jordan was looking at me with an odd expression. Yeah, that works. She typed something into her notes. Your family is going to ask about the relationship, what we like about each other, that kind of thing. We should probably have answers ready. This felt dangerous somehow, like we were approaching something that should stay unexamined. You go first, I said. Jordan set her laptop aside and leaned back against the couch. Okay, I like that you're genuinely kind to people even when they don't deserve it. Like how you always chat with that homeless guy outside the bodega and you don't act like it's charity, you just treat him like a person. I like that you're good at your job, but you don't make it your whole personality. I like that you know when I've had a bad day without me having to say anything, and you just make coffee and let me decompress. She paused. I like that you laugh at my terrible jokes even when they're not funny. My chest felt tight listening to her list these things, realizing she'd been paying attention to details I didn't think anyone noticed. Your turn, she said. I tried to organize my thoughts into something coherent. I like that you're the most competent person I know, but you're never condescending about it. I like that you care deeply about things, but you pretend not to, so people won't think you're soft. I like that you always buy the expensive coffee, even though we're both broke, because you say life's too short for bad coffee. I like that you sing in the shower and you think I can't hear you, but I can. And it's always songs from musicals that you claim to hate. Jordan's expression had shifted into something I couldn't read. I like that you're honest, I continued, even when it would be easier to lie. I like that you remember small things people mention once and then bring them up months later. I like that you make me want to be home instead of finding reasons to stay late at work. The silence after I finished felt heavy with something unspoken. Jordan picked up her laptop again, not meeting my eyes. That's good. That sounds real. Her voice was slightly rough. We should practice being physically comfortable with each other. Your family will expect casual affection. This felt like an even worse idea than the fake dating plan itself, but she was right. My mother would absolutely notice if Jordan flinched away when I touched her. Okay, like what? Jordan stood up and held out her hand. Start simple. Hold my hand. I took her hand and something electric shot up my arm. Her hand was warm and smaller than mine, fingers interlacing naturally. We'd never held hands before, despite living together for 18 months. It felt simultaneously foreign and completely right. See? Not weird, Jordan said, but her voice betrayed her. It was a little weird, or maybe weird wasn't the right word. Significant, maybe. We practiced for the next week, adding layers of casual affection that we'd supposedly developed over 3 months of dating. Jordan would lean against me while we watched television, my arm around her shoulders fitting like it had always belonged there. I'd rest my hand on the small of her back when we walked to the coffee shop, feeling the warmth of her skin through her shirt. She'd play with my hair absently while we sat on the couch reviewing our story, and I'd have to concentrate on not closing my eyes at the sensation. Each touch felt like learning a language I'd been speaking without realizing, giving name to things that had been happening in the margins of our friendship. The night before Thanksgiving, Jordan appeared in my doorway, wearing a dark blue dress I'd never seen before, her hair down in waves, makeup subtle, but noticeable. Does this work for meeting your family? She did a small turn, and I forgot how to form words for a second. The drive to my parents' house took 2 hours, and Jordan spent most of it quizzing me on family members. Your sister is Natalie. She's married to Gregory. They have twins named Oliver and Ivy, who are 6. Your brother is Simon. He's engaged to Amanda. Wedding is in April. Your dad is William. Your mom is Patricia. Aunt Beverly is your mom's sister. Uncle Lawrence is your dad's brother. She had everyone memorized from the family tree I'd drawn her, complete with notes about topics to avoid and safe conversation starters. You didn't have to study like this is a final exam, I said, watching her highlight another note. I want to make it convincing. Besides, I like being prepared. She looked over at me. Are you nervous? I was terrified, but not for the reasons she probably thought. Somewhere in the last week of practicing couple behavior, something had shifted in how I saw Jordan. Or maybe nothing had shifted, and I was just finally admitting what had been there all along. My mother opened the door before we'd even made it up the walkway, her face bright with excitement and curiosity. Elliot! And you must be Jordan, oh honey. You're even prettier than I imagined. She pulled Jordan into a hug that lasted several seconds too long, while my father appeared behind her with a more measured smile. Let them inside, Patricia. They just got here. My mother released Jordan and ushered us into the house, already peppering her with questions about the drive and whether she wanted wine or coffee or tea. Jordan handled it perfectly, warm but not over-eager, answering questions with enough detail to seem genuine without over-explaining. My sister Natalie emerged from the kitchen, took one look at Jordan, and shot me a glance that said we'd be having a private conversation later. So you're the mysterious girlfriend we've heard nothing about, Natalie said, shaking Jordan's hand. I can't believe Elliot kept you secret for 3 months. Jordan laughed easily, slipping her hand into mine in a gesture that felt more natural than it should. He wanted to make sure I wasn't going to run screaming before subjecting me to the full family experience. That got a genuine laugh from my father. Smart man. His family can be a lot. The afternoon unfolded better than I'd dared hope. Jordan charmed my mother by complimenting her cooking and asking for recipes, engaged my father in a lengthy discussion about architecture that revealed she'd been paying attention during my rants about building design, and won over the twins by actually playing with them instead of just patting their heads and retreating to the adult conversation. I watched her across the room at one point, crouched down, showing Ivy something on her phone, while Oliver hung over her shoulder, and felt something click into place in my chest. My mother materialized beside me. "She's wonderful, Elliot. Don't mess this up." Dinner was going smoothly until the doorbell rang. My mother's face did something complicated and guilty as she stood up. "That must be Beverly and Stephanie. I told them to stop by for dessert." My stomach dropped. Jordan's hand found mine under the table, squeezing once in reassurance. Aunt Beverly swept in trailing perfume and enthusiasm, her daughter Stephanie following with a polite smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Patricia, everything smells divine. Oh, Elliot, so good to see you. And this must be the girlfriend we've heard about." Stephanie's smile sharpened slightly. "What a surprise. Last I heard, Elliot was still single." There was something pointed in how she said it, and I recognized her type immediately. Someone used to getting what she wanted and displeased at finding the goalposts had moved. Jordan stood up, extending her hand with a warm smile that somehow contained steel underneath. "Jordan Reeves, and you must be Stephanie. Your mother's been telling us about your residency. Pediatrics, right?" Stephanie took Jordan's hand briefly. "Emergency medicine, actually. So, Elliot, how long did you say you two have been together?" Before I could answer, Jordan did. 3 months officially, but we've known each other for almost 2 years. We were friends first, which I think made the transition to dating feel very natural. She was so smooth with the lie that I almost believed it myself. Stephanie sat down in the chair next to mine, closer than necessary. 2 years? That's quite a long friendship before dating. What changed? The question was innocent enough, but loaded with implication. Jordan didn't miss a beat. "I think we both realized we'd been dating in everything but name for a while. Sometimes the best relationships are the ones that grow organically instead of forcing something that isn't there." That last part was clearly directed at Stephanie, who had the grace to look slightly embarrassed. My mother was watching this exchange with poorly concealed delight, probably enjoying that her matchmaking attempt was being publicly rejected. Stephanie tried a different angle. "So, Jordan, what do you do?" This was territory we'd prepared for. "I'm a litigation consultant. Essentially, I help law firms prepare for trial by reviewing evidence and developing case strategies." Stephanie nodded, but her eyes were already glazing over with polite disinterest. "That sounds technical. Do you work from home?" The implication was clear. Did Jordan have a real career, or was she underemployed and convenient? Jordan's smile didn't waver. "I have an office downtown, but I do work from home occasionally. It's actually how Elliot and I ended up living together. I needed a place when my lease ended. He had a spare room and it made sense financially. Then we realized we made good roommates, which made us wonder if we'd make good partners." She paused deliberately. "Turns out we do." Stephanie's expression had gone tight around the edges. "How convenient that you already live together. No need to go through that awkward adjustment period." The word convenient was clearly meant as an insult, suggesting Jordan had taken an easy path to a relationship. I felt anger flash hot in my chest, but Jordan squeezed my hand under the table, warning me to let her handle it. "Actually, living together first means we've already seen each other at our worst. No surprises about annoying habits or incompatibility. We know exactly what we're getting into, which seems like the opposite of convenient. It's honest." Stephanie opened her mouth to respond, but my mother cut in. "I think it's lovely that you two built a friendship first. That's what William and I did, wasn't it, dear?" My father nodded, recognizing his cue to support his wife's narrative shift. "Best decision I ever made was marrying my friend." Aunt Beverly, reading the room, steered conversation to safer topics, while Stephanie sat in stony silence. After dessert, she made her excuses and left early, citing an early shift at the hospital. My mother hugged her goodbye with what looked like genuine relief. Once the door closed behind them, my mother turned to Jordan with an apologetic expression. "I'm so sorry, honey. I didn't know Beverly was bringing Stephanie tonight. If I'd known it would be awkward, I would have told her not to come." Jordan waved it off gracefully. "Don't worry about it. I understand family dynamics can be complicated." Natalie appeared at my elbow. "Can I talk to you in the kitchen?" It wasn't really a question. I followed her, leaving Jordan chatting with my mother about something that had them both laughing. Natalie leaned against the counter, arms crossed, studying me with that particular big sister expression that meant she was about to say something I wouldn't want to hear. "Okay, what's really going on with you and Jordan?" I tried to look innocent. "What do you mean?" "We're dating." She rolled her eyes. "Elliot, I've known you for 29 years. I can tell when you're lying. And right now, you're doing this thing where you avoid eye contact and touch your neck." I consciously dropped my hand from my neck. "We're dating," I repeated, but it sounded hollow even to me. Natalie sighed. "Fine, don't tell me. But I'm going to say something, and I want you to actually listen. That woman out there is either the best actress I've ever seen, or she's genuinely in love with you. The way she looks at you, the way she defended you to Stephanie, the way she fits into this family like she's been here forever, that's not fake, My heart started pounding hard enough that I could feel it in my throat. You're wrong. We're just friends. This is just for today. To get Mom off my back about the setup attempts. Natalie gave me a look of pure exasperation. Elliot, I watched you watch her all afternoon. You look at her the way Dad looks at Mom when he thinks no one's paying attention. Whatever you think this is, I'm telling you there's something real happening here. Before I could argue, Jordan appeared in the doorway. Sorry to interrupt, but your mom wants to take a photo of us. Natalie caught my eye one more time, meaningful and knowing, before Jordan and I went back to the living room. My mother had her phone out, directing us to stand by the fireplace. Perfect lighting here. Elliot, put your arm around her. Jordan, lean in a bit. Oh, you two look so natural together. She snapped several photos while my father rolled his eyes good-naturedly at her enthusiasm. The drive home was quiet at first, both of us processing the evening. Jordan broke the silence first. That went better than expected. Your family's really nice. I kept my eyes on the road. Even the part where my mom ambushed us with Stephanie? Jordan laughed. Especially that part. Did you see your mom's face when Stephanie left early? She looked so relieved. We lapsed back into silence, but it felt different now, charged with something unspoken. After a while, Jordan said quietly, "Thank you for defending me to Stephanie. I mean, I know it was part of the act, but still." I glanced over at her. That wasn't an act. The things she was implying about you were out of line. Jordan was looking out the window at the dark highway. What did your sister want to talk to you about in the kitchen? I debated lying, then remembered Jordan's comment about honesty being important. She said she thinks you have real feelings for me, that the way you were acting wasn't fake. I could feel Jordan stiffen beside me. What did you tell her? My hands tightened on the steering wheel. I told her she was wrong, that we're just friends doing each other a favor. The words felt like lies, even as I said them. Jordan was very quiet. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, what if she wasn't wrong? The car swerved slightly and I corrected it, my heart suddenly racing. What? Jordan turned to face me. What if she wasn't wrong? About me having real feelings. I pulled over to the shoulder of the highway, putting the car in park because I couldn't drive and have this conversation simultaneously. Jordan, what are you saying? She took a breath, and I could see her gathering courage. I'm saying that when you asked me to pretend to be your girlfriend, I said yes, because I wanted to know what it would feel like, to be with you like that, even if it was fake. I'm saying that everything I said at dinner about why we work together, I meant it. I'm saying the hardest part of today wasn't pretending to be in love with you. It was remembering that I am. The confession hung between us like a physical thing. My brain was struggling to process what she'd just said, to rearrange 18 months of friendship into this new configuration. How long have you felt this way? My voice came out rough. Jordan laughed, but it sounded pained. I don't know exactly. Maybe it was gradual, or maybe it was immediate, and I just didn't let myself acknowledge it. Do you remember that first day we met at the coffee shop? I went home and told my friend that I'd just met someone interesting, and she asked if you were single, and I said it didn't matter because you were going to be my roommate, and I wasn't going to mess that up. I remembered that day from my perspective, how I'd immediately called my best friend and said I thought the new potential roommate might become an actual friend, which was rare for me. How I'd been pleased when she'd texted that she wanted the room, and how the apartment had felt different, better, once she'd moved in. How I'd started looking forward to coming home, to the easy conversation and comfortable silences. I didn't know, I said finally. I didn't know you felt that way. Jordan's smile was sad. I got pretty good at hiding it. Had to, since we lived together and I didn't want to make things awkward. But today, pretending we were together, having your family treat me like I belonged there, defending you to Stephanie because the idea of anyone thinking you weren't good enough made me genuinely angry. It made me realize I can't keep pretending I don't feel this way. I sat there in my idling car on the shoulder of the highway, watching 18 months of memories rearrange themselves through this new lens. Every time Jordan had made coffee exactly how I liked it without asking. The way she'd stayed up with me when I had that brutal project deadline, working quietly in the same room just to keep me company. How she'd learned to read my moods and know when I needed space versus when I needed distraction. The inside jokes that had developed naturally, the comfortable silence, the way our schedules had gradually synchronized without us noticing. I've been an idiot, I said quietly. Jordan looked up, guarded hope in her eyes. What do you mean? I turned to face her fully. I mean, I've been calling you my roommate and my friend because those were safe labels for something I didn't want to examine too closely. I mean, I spent today watching you with my family and feeling proud and possessive and terrified someone would see through our act. Except it wasn't really an act for me either. Jordan's breath caught. Elliot, what are you saying? I reached over and took her hand, the gesture as natural now as breathing. I'm saying that when Natalie told me how you look at me, my first thought wasn't, that's awkward. It was good. I'm saying that practicing being affectionate with you this week didn't feel like practice. It felt like finally being allowed to do what I'd wanted to do for months. I'm saying that list of things I like about you, I've been mentally adding to it since the day we met. Jordan's eyes were shining with tears. She was blinking back. Then why didn't you say something? I laughed. the sound slightly hysterical. Because you're my roommate and my friend, and I didn't want to risk losing that. Because I convinced myself what I felt was platonic when it clearly wasn't. Because I'm apparently really good at lying to myself. We sat there holding hands in my parked car, the headlights illuminating the empty highway ahead. So what happens now? Jordan asked. I thought about my mother's warning not to mess this up, about Natalie's knowing look, about Stephanie's obvious jealousy. I thought about coming home to an empty apartment versus coming home to Jordan. I thought about the difference between having a roommate and having a partner, and realized the line between those things had blurred months ago without me noticing. Now, I said, we stop pretending this is fake. I pulled back onto the highway, but kept hold of Jordan's hand. She laced her fingers through mine, and something that had been tense in my chest finally relaxed. Your family is going to be insufferable about this, Jordan said. They're going to claim they knew all along. I laughed. They probably did. We're apparently not subtle. When we got back to the apartment, everything looked the same, but felt different. Jordan kicked off her heels and headed to her room to change, and I stood in the living room feeling unmoored. She emerged a few minutes later in sweatpants and an old t-shirt, hair pulled back, makeup washed off. She looked more beautiful than she had all day. So, she said, do we talk about logistics? Like, do you want me to move out? Find a different place? I don't know what the protocol is for when roommates start dating. The thought of Jordan leaving made my stomach drop. I don't want you to move out, unless you want to. She shook her head. I don't want to, but dating while living together seems complicated. I moved closer to her. More or less complicated than living together while secretly having feelings for each other? Jordan smiled. Fair point. Okay, so we're doing this? Actually dating? Actually dating. She reached up and touched my face, her hand warm against my cheek. Then I should probably mention that I've wanted to do this for a very long time. She kissed me, soft and tentative at first, then deeper when I pulled her closer. It felt like coming home and discovering something new simultaneously. When we broke apart, Jordan was grinning. That was better than our fake first kiss story. I laughed. Way better. We should probably come up with a new story for how we got together. She looped her arms around my neck. Or we could just tell people the truth. That we were idiots who took way too long to figure out what everyone else apparently already knew. My phone buzzed with a text. I ignored it, but Jordan reached into my pocket and pulled it out. It's from your mom. She showed me the screen. The text contained one of the photos from earlier, Jordan and I by the fireplace. I had my arm around her and she was leaning into me, both of us smiling at something off camera. We looked happy and comfortable and completely in love. Below the photo, my mother had written, I knew you two were really together. You look at her the same way your father looks at me. Jordan read the message and laughed. Called it. Your family is going to be insufferable. I pulled her closer, looking at the photo over her shoulder. Worth it, I said, and kissed her again. My phone kept buzzing with more texts. Probably my entire family weighing in, but I ignored them. There would be time later to deal with their inevitable told-you-sos. Right now, I had more important things to focus on. Jordan pulled back slightly. We should probably set some ground rules. Like, what happens if this doesn't work out? We can't exactly avoid each other if we're living together. I understood the fear behind the question. Then, we figure it out. But Jordan, I've already seen you at your worst. I've seen you stressed and angry and sick and exhausted, and I still wanted to spend time with you. Whatever happens, we'll handle it. She nodded, accepting this. Okay, but I'm still taking the good bathroom if we break up. I laughed. Deal. Over the next few weeks, we developed a new normal that was simultaneously completely different and exactly the same. We still split chores and argued about whose turn it was to buy groceries, but now those arguments ended with kissing instead of passive-aggressive notes on the fridge. We still watched television on the couch, but now Jordan sat pressed against my side with my arm around her instead of on the opposite end, with careful distance between us. The morning coffee routine remained the same, except now it included good morning kisses that made us both late for work. My family group chat exploded with messages ranging from my mother's delight to my brother's sarcasm about how long it took me to figure out something obvious. Natalie sent a private text. Told you so. You owe me $20. I sent back a middle finger emoji, but I also sent the money because she'd been right. The first real fight happened 3 weeks after Thanksgiving, about something stupid and domestic that spiraled into actual hurt feelings. Jordan thought I was being passive-aggressive about her leaving dishes in the sink, and I thought she was being dismissive of my legitimate complaint. We ended up not speaking for several hours, both retreating to our separate rooms, and the apartment felt cold and wrong. I'd never hated a fight more in my life, because now we couldn't just avoid each other until things blew over. We lived together. I had to see her eventually. Around midnight, there was a quiet knock on my door. I opened it to find Jordan standing there in her pajamas, looking miserable. I hate fighting with you, she said. I hate it too. We stood there for a moment, and then she said, I'm sorry about the dishes, and I'm sorry I dismissed your complaint. You weren't being passive-aggressive. I was being defensive because I knew you were right. I pulled her into a hug. I'm sorry I let it turn into a fight instead of just talking to you about it. We stood in my doorway holding each other, and I realized this was what made it real. Not the easy parts, but the hard parts we chose to work through. Christmas brought another family gathering, this time at my brother Simon's place. Jordan had been nervous about it, worried that my family would judge our relationship now that it was real instead of fake. I'd assured her they already loved her, but I understood the anxiety. This was different. Before, if something went wrong, we could just break up the fake relationship and move on. Now the stakes were higher. My mother pulled us aside almost immediately. I have a confession to make. I may have suspected you two weren't actually dating when you came to Thanksgiving. Jordan and I exchanged glances. What gave us away? My mother smiled. Nothing gave you away. You were very convincing. But I know my son, and I know when he's faking something. The thing is, I also saw how you looked at each other when you thought no one was watching. So I figured either you were lying about dating, or you were lying about just starting to date. Either way, I knew something real was happening. Jordan laughed, shaking her head. So inviting Stephanie was? It was me being a nosy mother who wanted to see what would happen, my mother admitted, not looking remotely sorry. I thought if you two were pretending, having Stephanie there would force you to confront what was real. And if you weren't pretending, well, Stephanie needed to know you were taken. It was diabolically clever, and I told her so. She patted my cheek. I didn't raise you to be stupid about love, but sometimes you need a push. Consider Stephanie my push. Amanda, Simon's fiancée, overheard this and laughed. Patricia, you're shameless. My mother shrugged unapologetically. I get results. She squeezed Jordan's hand. I'm glad you're here, honey. For real this time. Jordan squeezed back. Me too. The evening was easier than Thanksgiving had been. Maybe because we weren't performing anymore. Jordan helped Amanda with dinner prep, swapping cooking tips and stories. Simon cornered me by the drinks table. So you and Jordan, huh? Natalie said you were being an idiot about it for months. I poured myself a glass of wine. Natalie talks too much. He grinned. She's not wrong, though. I've met Jordan a few times when I stopped by your place. She's great, and you're clearly into her. Glad you finally figured it out. I watched Jordan across the room, animated and laughing at something my father was saying. Yeah, I said quietly. Me too. Simon followed my gaze. You look at her the same way Dad looks at Mom, you know? It's kind of disgustingly sweet. I'd heard that comparison enough times now that I was starting to believe it. My parents had been married 35 years and still held hands at dinner. If Jordan and I could have even half of what they had, I'd consider myself lucky. New Year's Eve came, and we decided to stay in rather than brave the crowds and overpriced bars. Jordan made dinner while I attempted to make dessert, which ended with flour somehow on every surface, including the ceiling. We were both laughing too hard to care about the mess. At midnight, we stood on our apartment balcony watching distant fireworks, bundled in blankets against the cold. Jordan turned to me as people cheered in the street below. Last year at this time, I was at a party wishing I was home. This year I'm home and I don't want to be anywhere else. I kissed her as more fireworks exploded overhead. Best year yet, I said against her lips. She smiled. Next year will be better. It felt like a promise, and I intended to keep it. 6 months later, we'd fallen into such a comfortable rhythm that I sometimes forgot we hadn't always been together like this. Jordan had mostly moved her things into my room, her room becoming a home office for both of us. We painted the living room a color Jordan picked out, hung photos on walls that had been bare, slowly made the apartment feel less like a temporary space and more like a home. My lease was up in July, and Jordan suggested we look at bigger places. Something with 2 bathrooms, she said. I love you, but I need my own counter space. We spent weekends touring apartments, gradually expanding our search radius. Jordan had specific requirements. Good natural light, updated kitchen, close to public transportation. I had simpler needs, space for both of us, affordable rent, whatever made Jordan happy. We found the perfect place in late June. A 2-bedroom on the 4th floor with huge windows and a balcony big enough for actual furniture. The rent was steep but manageable if we split it, and Jordan's face lit up the moment we walked in. This is it, she said, walking from room to room. This is perfect. I could picture our life in this space. Could see Jordan working in the 2nd bedroom and me cooking in the actual functional kitchen. Could imagine lazy Sunday mornings on that balcony, hosting dinners for friends, building something lasting. We signed the lease that day. Moving was chaotic and exhausting, but Jordan made even the tedious parts fun by blasting music and rewarding each completed box with elaborate dance breaks. My family showed up to help, my father and brother carrying heavy furniture while my mother directed traffic and Jordan's organizational skills. Natalie cornered me while we were unpacking kitchen boxes. You're going to propose soon, right? I nearly dropped the plates I was holding. What? She rolled her eyes. Elliot, you've been together almost a year. You moved in together officially. You look at her like she hung the moon. When are you going to make it official? I hadn't let myself think that far ahead, worried it was too soon. But Natalie had a point. Jordan and I had basically been building a life together since the day we met. Making it legal felt like acknowledging what was already true. I don't know, I admitted. What if it's too fast? Natalie gave me a look. You've known her for almost 3 years. You've lived together for 2.5. You've seen her sick, stressed, angry, and vulnerable. What exactly are you waiting to find out? She wasn't wrong. I knew Jordan's coffee order and her work schedule and her terrible singing voice. I knew she stress cleaned and got grumpy when hungry and cried at insurance commercials. I knew she was brilliant and kind and funny and occasionally infuriating. I knew I wanted to spend the rest of my life knowing her better. Okay, I said. You're right. I'll think about it. Natalie smiled. Don't think too long. That woman isn't going to wait around forever if you don't lock it down. I started planning quietly, recruiting my mother's help to find out Jordan's ring preferences without being obvious. My mother, delighted to be included, suggested I talk to Jordan's best friend Alexis, who would know exactly what Jordan wanted. Alexis met me for coffee and pulled up photos on her phone. Jordan mentioned once that she hates big, flashy rings, said they get in the way of actual work. She likes simple, classic designs. Also, she has small hands, so nothing too large. She showed me a photo of a ring Jordan had pointed out in a magazine years ago, a simple platinum band with a small, square-cut diamond. It was perfect, understated, and elegant. I bought it 3 weeks later and then spent another month trying to figure out the right way to propose. Every romantic gesture felt too cliché, too performative. I wanted something that felt like us, something real. The opportunity came unexpectedly in September, on a random weeknight when nothing special was planned. We'd made dinner together, the kitchen a comfortable chaos of chopping and stirring and talking about our days. After we ate, we'd migrated to the balcony with wine, watching the sunset paint the sky orange and pink. Jordan was telling me about a case she was working on, animated and engaged, hands moving as she explained complex legal strategy. I watched her talk and thought about that first coffee shop meeting almost 3 years ago, how I'd hoped she'd become my friend, how I'd gotten so much more than friendship without realizing it was happening. Why are you looking at me like that? Jordan asked, breaking off mid-sentence. I set down my wine glass. I was thinking about the day we met, about how I had no idea that meeting you would change everything. Jordan smiled. Getting sentimental in your old age? I pulled the ring box from my pocket where I'd been carrying it for weeks, waiting for a moment that felt right. This moment, unplanned and ordinary and perfect, felt right. Jordan's eyes went wide as I opened the box. I've been calling you my roommate, then my girlfriend, and both those labels are true, but incomplete. I want to call you my wife. I want to build a life with you that we're not just falling into by accident, but choosing deliberately. Jordan, will you marry me? Her hands were shaking as she took the box from me. You're serious? You're actually proposing? I nodded, suddenly nervous that I'd misread things, moved too fast, assumed too much. If it's too soon, we can wait. I just wanted you to know that I'm sure. About you. About us. Jordan laughed, and I saw tears on her face. Yes. Obviously yes. Did you really think I'd say no? Relief and joy flooded through me. I hoped not, but I wasn't completely sure. She kissed me, soft and sweet and tasting like wine and happiness. I'm sure, she said against my lips. I've been sure for a long time. The ring fit perfectly on her finger, and Jordan kept looking at it with wonder, like she couldn't quite believe it was real. We called my mother first, who screamed so loudly I had to hold the phone away from my ear. Then Jordan called Alexis, who revealed immediately that she'd helped pick the ring and had been sworn to secrecy. We spent the rest of the evening on the balcony, planning nothing and everything, talking about what kind of wedding we wanted, and where we might buy a house someday, and whether we'd have kids. All the small and large decisions that make up a life, discussing them with someone who would be there for all of them. My phone buzzed with a text from Natalie. Mom told me, finally, you're welcome for the advice. I sent back a thank you with several eye-roll emojis. Jordan was scrolling through her own flood of congratulatory messages, smiling at her phone. Your whole family is texting me. Your mom wants to know if she can start planning the wedding. We set a date for the following summer, giving us almost a year to plan. Jordan wanted something small and intimate, just family and close friends, and I wanted whatever she wanted. The wedding planning process revealed new facets of our relationship, like how Jordan got stressed about details and I learned to talk her down from spirals about flower arrangements, how I got overwhelmed by too many choices, and she learned to narrow options for me. We compromised and negotiated and occasionally fought, and through it all, I never once doubted we were making the right choice. My mother threw Jordan a bridal shower that turned into my entire family, celebrating her joining us officially. Jordan's parents flew in from California, and watching our families meet and blend made everything feel settled and right. The night before the wedding, I stayed at my brother's place per tradition, while Jordan stayed at our apartment. Simon made jokes about cold feet and last chances to run, but I'd never been more certain about anything in my life. The ceremony was in my parents' backyard on a perfect summer afternoon, surrounded by people who'd watched us figure out what we meant to each other. Jordan walked down the makeshift aisle in a simple dress that took my breath away, her father giving her away with tears in his eyes. We'd written our own vows, and when Jordan started speaking, her voice steady and clear, I had to fight to keep my composure. 3 years ago, I met you in a coffee shop and thought you seemed like someone I'd want to know. I had no idea that knowing you would become the most important part of my life. You've been my friend, my roommate, my partner, and now you're becoming my husband. I promise to keep making you coffee the way you like it, to laugh at your terrible jokes, to support your dreams and challenge you when you're wrong. I promise to build a life with you that's honest and kind and full of love. I promise to be your person in all the ways that matter, for as long as we both shall live. When it was my turn, I looked at Jordan and saw our entire history in her eyes. I thought I was just looking for a roommate when I met you. Turns out I was looking for my future without knowing it. You've made me better in every way that counts. You've taught me what partnership actually means, what it looks like to choose someone every single day and have them choose you back. I promise to be worthy of that choice. I promise to make you laugh when you're stressed, to listen when you need to talk, to give you space when you need it and support when you don't. I promise to love you on purpose, deliberately and completely, for the rest of my life. My voice cracked on the last words, and Jordan squeezed my hands, her eyes shining with tears. When the officiant pronounced us married and I kissed my wife for the first time, everyone cheered, and I heard my mother crying happy tears. The reception flowed into evening, string lights illuminating the yard as people danced and celebrated. My father gave a toast about finding your person and knowing when to hold on tight. Jordan's mother spoke about watching her daughter find happiness with someone who saw and valued all of her. Natalie's toast roasted me gently about being oblivious, before getting sentimental about watching us figure out we belonged together. When Jordan and I danced our first dance as a married couple, she whispered, "Did you ever imagine, that first day we met, that we'd end up here?" I pulled her closer. "No, but I'm really glad we did." She rested her head against my chest. "Best decision I ever made was answering your ad for a roommate." I laughed. "Best decision I ever made was renting to someone I actually liked." We swayed together as the song played, surrounded by everyone who mattered, and I thought about the strange path that had led us here. How a practical arrangement had become a friendship, and a friendship had become a love story. How sometimes the best things in life are the ones you don't see coming. 3 years after that coffee shop meeting, Jordan and I stood in our backyard as husband and wife, and everything finally made perfect sense. Thanks for watching till the end. Make sure to subscribe and like to not miss the next story.